it already, but I can't wait for things to get like the weather get dry a little and much that leaves the atmosphere. But that's just me. I know there are a lot of people who love the rain and the weather and the stuff like that. It's my guest is in the building while Rihanna was serenading us with a make umbrella. Kolawole Johnson was his way into the studio. Excited to see you, Kolawole Johnson. Just a communicator and a political analyst, a sound one, and that delighted. I did that before you came in. Oh, VNNIN. Yes.
Good afternoon, Nigerians. That is good to hear.
Yeah, for some reason I had to catch your mic, Kolawole.
My what?
Okay, good now. All right then. So welcome. Yes, I greet you. I mentioned to you that some people actually keep right now. Topware #1 on the league. Thanks to you. Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you, darling. Good to see you. After the Judgement.
Yes, and I recall that we had you last Monday and you were not keen on the this called the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. I really had to beg him because it is one of the stories we're going to look at today. The perception of a lot of people. I mean, there's a whole lot you can look at right now that the judgment is out, of emotions are out, people have calmed down, moved on already, and even the candidate themselves have decided the next for them, which is the Supreme Court. But just before we get to that story, it's 22nd anniversary of September 11 attack, and I was wondering what was going on. The September 11 attack by Al Qaeda, the United States of America, the Twin Tower, where they lost 2,700 people, and the number of people who emotionally, mentally couldn't cope with the aftermath and what happened and just survived much after that. And since then, even though the United States make a strong statement by ensuring eliminated the mastermind behind it, and even till date, still scouting people who were tied directly. I think they wrapped it up pretty much when Osama bin Laden was eliminated. There haven't been any threats externally to that country, but there are internal threats. And I'm interested in your take on that. And they go all out to ensure man and the group that is behind it and knew without a shadow of doubt was behind it had to be eliminated. The stronger message. You think it wasn't that Osama bin Laden, that people were still there at the States of America today?
For me, I'll dwell less on these. And the reason, if you deal some very critical risks, you may be giving wings to terrorists to fly. Because one questions that aftermath September 11 attack and the U.S., stepped up a lot of, posting as the wall. And you will ask yourself, in the internal relations has been described as an hypothetical, a world that is real yet very real. That why would one nation, post itself as the police of the world? When you undertake those, on double standards, because it's, SQs would have to, or the reasons given for the nation. The total destabilization and destruction of Libya. Yeah. Now, the most robust system you have in the country, Africa. Of course, they've turned the country around. So I like to dwell much on that. But he called that the September 11 attack. It made the most audacious, for the terrorist. And the fact that you had brave Americans who were trying to retake the plane that eventually killed the entire 19 terrorists. Will show the brevity you have in society, that they love their country very much well, and the way the entire country came around to support their government. You have one blaming the president. There was nothing like that.
Or why didn't get in beforehand?
There was nothing like that. The intention came together, to support. So that is one thing we can learn. And the fact that you have a nation that don't just give lip service. They don't tell you that. We are on the matter, or that will bring to book. The grammar will bring to book. He was not theorized. They went for those who were involved. Yes, of course, they took them. Yeah. The fact that we know that those guys, they had, the main reason why they succeed was just because also the American system, not by themselves, because
they got help.
Being like was part of the American stuff before. They had used him in the past. So avoiding them, and he turned against them. So he wasn't succeed. And that shows you that what in Africa, or the normal parents in Africa, let me say it in my own language, meaning that you're not gotten from the inside. If you are not, if they didn't get you from the inside, would be, most difficult for the outside person to get you. So the same they have trained, they have used over time. eventually became their albatross. So again, to sound a note of warning that you think some are being used in the international space. No matter what they went against your country, they will succeed without the internal collaborators. The political scientists will the domestic enabler. No matter what they from their side. Even in the days of slave trade, those guys needed our own people here, to succeed.
They collaborate with
Yes, when they were dividing up, when they were to get those factors, so-called those ones, the so-called factors, they used the role to get us, and they used both diplomacy. If I remember that, and they got us until they were able to get until they had internal operators they used. They weren't able to get us. In internet game, they were always domestic people who are profiting, racketeering, from whatever is the game they are playing outside to succeed. Just like you remember the coke, the one they dropped those debris debts, those ways they came to drop in Nigeria, some like internal collaborators. Find bad product in your country, internal collaborators. If you people, you always have collaborators. So it is almost possible for external to succeed without in collaborators. So for the US, what they must have learned is that the same people against their own country, against people's system, could actually be very, disastrous. And I'm sure they've taken measures to ensure that you can only see a part of doing. You can't see all of it. The strategy, if you're developing not war, even in the normal creation job, if you're going to have a wholesale strategy at times, and you divide them into more cases, unit A maintain what unit C or D is doing. Of course, so that if one aspect is, you can't disrupt the enthusiasm because you must make plans for strategy. What if you have a strike from side to cause a divide and rule? They can divide you, just to get you. Once you have structural formity in any strategic you're in trouble already. So what that tells is very simple: is that you don't expose the entire structure single unit. So unit A don't understand what unit B, C, D is doing. That is why. So
that will be always that element of surprise. Actually,
in fact, if you don't have some elements in your strategic deployment, you are not ready yet, for proper engagement, either at the war front or public space. Don't forget that in public space, it is war, there's no gun. Just like they describe politics as war without bullshit. War as politics with bloodshed. So it is like that in public space. You're fighting for something. You're getting the people's endorsement. You're getting the buy-in into what you're doing. So as I'm also trying to get. So there's strong, stiff competition in the space. Whoever can deploy more, whoever sends the tactics more, they get it. Not taxes in terms of what we work is what a particular environment that you, for example, if you have an environment largely illiterate, you can deploy some strategy to them, like you would in a very literate environment. So you always ensure that in your implement, all the units don't the entire structure, the entire picture. They can only fix their own puzzle. Like our own puzzle is the only one you can say get yourself back. So the US, I'm sure they are doing that much more today. So no matter the kind of spy that would deploy on them, Russia deploy, you can't have the entire picture, the American security network. That I can. And it is just not about the nine. It is about the fact that countries too that were low before, were not up to them before, they are developing. So they also have to up their game. There are some things Russia have that I can assure you that by now, of course, they're not deployed. We don't know that it is until there's a need for it. So other countries are doing this. Unfortunately, the African continent, let me say Nigeria, the biggest, is it one out of every 5,
They say it's Nigerian.
Nigeria, but unfortunately, we're not taking that place, in those. I doubt if we have, that kind of sophistication. That is why the US with Nigeria, with their few soldiers, very few, to rescue their own citizen. Conveniently, without your support. You can't do US soil. It's impossible. It shows that we still have a long way to go. This will also tell us that we should be prepared. The world, your friend yesterday become your enemy today. That is one thing that the US must have learned from that. But some few lessons we can learn is that we should always have a convergence of opinion as a whole. Once there is attack a cause, an attack against one should mean an attack against all. This is why we can't afford, division we have in this country where if something is happening in the southeast, it doesn't concern the person up here. Not them, let them themselves. We should stop that approach. It will eventually go around. Remember the days when Benue was going on, I was on your, and I told you that if we don't stop this in time, it will become a national cake and eventually,
sadly
happen. So we learn to ensure that we get our nation, we give that nation that national support when it's time to do that.
All right, then. Going for a quick break. We'll be back to talk some more at 5.1 Nigeria Info.
Abuja, our is always on. That's why I give you the microphone.
This is Nigeria Info.
Hello, my name is Kimberly. I'm the host of Heart, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Fact Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute. Here in Hard Facts. Join and let's talk.
This is Nigeria Info.
Traumatized to all of that documented.
Exactly. Even the number of terrorists that died. So, they had all of this facts. So, all part game. Know that when something happens, should be looking out.
I'm glad you brought this. Sometimes, Kolawole, it truly troubles me when things happen and we're not sure for days. We're still speculating as to the figure of the birth and unknown. And that's why you hear from NSAS to the attacks in Katsina.
Yeah.
There's always that disparity in terms of either figures, whose side. I mean, you should be able to get authoritatively from either the national agency within a setting, hours or days.
Yes.
What it is.
No, here.
Our problem is fundamentally this problem for us.
Is it, and again, the fact that we like suppress fact. For example, after the event, after the the crashing of the stock in New York, Pentagon, Pennsylvania, about 400, police were killed as a result of reaching to the scene. But unfortunately, it's in Nigeria. They'll say, no, only police officers. Because we want to suppress. Look at the NSAS issue, too. Good at suppressing the fact. I mean, it's unfortunate. It has, become part of us. Reveal the fact.
Why exactly do you think that? And is it some sort of strategy that worked for our kind of system? Because I remember plane was gunned down by terror. Yeah. And then the narrative is, it came on his own. And then you start to wonder, what side should you believe more? The propaganda video putting there, or men that should be able to tell you at least close to the truth of the matter of what the picture is?
I think, in a system where you've not done the right thing. I remember the same Benue case that way. Then a governor said, I sent an intel letter to the presidency to tell them that some terrorists had camped near Sususu and that they were going to attack the security report available to us. Sent to the presidency, a said, remember when intervention happened, the presidency denied that they did not hear any letter. I remember the VP then denied. The man came out and said, VP, I gave you. You were aware. You had it. So what do you think happened? It is because those who should take those who should take responsibility knew that they failed. So because they were inadequate, that the people would question them, that why do you do this? So the best thing to do for them was to hide from that and say, no, we were not aware. And each time you say, I was not aware, it was because clearly some people failed to do their duty. So you take that, or you extrapolate that, or you do that, or you try to bring that same scenario to most of the things that happen. you know that some people failed in their responsibility. So when they failed, they wouldn't want to also blame them for that failure. So they try to reduce the matter and, claim, if you have done your part, if you've done all required of you diligently, you won't be ashamed to say this is the situation we have at time. We did our best. Sorry, people. So when you've not done your best, you will always want to hide that or the truth.
And you know what? He also points at how much premium, if any, we put the life of the average person. Because if you prioritize people within yours, there are certain things, we should play politics with at a point in time. I hope in the future we'll get to that point also. Value lives in this country.
It is about valuing lives. It is about treating government job as should be treated. If you've not lived up to responsibility, there should be. You can't have a failure, a major failure system, and there is no scapegoat. Nobody is punished until you have a system that reward hard work meritoriously, that reward merit. And, look at that leadership process. It is who knows what you know. It is who you know. The system itself is just deficient. That system cannot work. That's why you can't have the very best. Why do you think, even this example over and again, you see government-owned states, and you wonder, well, a private station will come to the and take out the place. Because you can't keep people in a place where they can't perform. Go to CBN, go to a number of government agencies. You see some people, they play on top. They know nothing. They don't keep some, some junior officers under them to do for them. And you ask here there because they know Mr. A or Mr. B, even postings, not just in our government agency, even in military formation postings based on it's not really who is the best for the job. Who bring the best of back. So just the man is looking for loyalty, not to question. Even if he posts you and you are becoming too deep, you are asking the right questions, they take you from there. One of these chiefs, of course, we know what happened to him when he was posted. The front line sometimes. So these things are in our system that you don't send your best hand. Things happen. You them now because there are people who could do better. And unfortunately, it is in the entire structure of our nation. Look at the education system. It has gone. I think that this nation is safe. I've gone back to the school environment. Tell you that the rot in that system is more than what you have outside. So much that the distance, the gap between the classroom and the field is so widened. Like maybe compared to life, and you can, when students come out, they are not employable for two reasons. Not because our curricula is outdated. You have countries updating their curricula every 10 years. Ours has been since the colonial. We haven't.
In our defense, we try to. We do.
Okay,
but not that frequent.
Go and check what we have. I told you here that in communication class of 2000, we're still discussing McBride reporting that released when that was the base of the entire communication destruction. Discuss. That is what they want us to till today. We are still discussing colonialism from. We're discussing what the colonial masters did. What can historical and dialectical materialism from the point of what is useful. The things that are not realistic. Those are the things you see that form curricula of these courses. I just mentioned now, that the end of history, Hamas suggested, cannot work. You can system where, you can work according to your ability and get according to, that means, you can work 10 and get 100 system, cannot work. We are still, the thing we still do, go to business and look at the things they are teaching. I was in school, I was being taught Babylonian mathematics. What do I need that one? In the days, can you imagine? What would that do? A few years ago, I was trying to, supervise some, and bring the same thing. So you have seen Babylonian mathematics, Babylonia, in the days that got ours. Yeah, the things we are still doing in Nigeria. The curricula is outdated, they cannot give us. That is the first problem with our education. The second is that these days are not ready to read. Go and look at the younger, go get what they, unfortunately, because the lecturers claim no well paid. So they hide on that day. And they collect money, and people who should, with empty, will be getting BA. I want to help a student to move from failure to E to D, no problem. Moving a student from failure to distinction. So when he gets to the workplace, she has nothing to offer. And unfortunately, the certificate is what we all measure our employability on. So they bring the certificate, and they have, good. And unfortunately, nobody asks question. In the sector. So we have issues.
I'm telling you, just highlighted some of them. Funny but real. And are you Okay, are you on YouTube as Nigeria? 3 satellites in space. What are we doing with them? People can use their Google map and see moving objects in astro. What is wrong with us? Trying to, identify threats and all of that. And then Abiodun says, Mr. Kolawole, one problem we have is lack of data. In fact, we're not serious as a people. What we do, if there is casual, to give estimated number at the end of the day. All right. Let's move on to another story. And, well,
the election matters, right?
Exactly. It has come, it has gone, but opinions pretty much right about it. And, a lot of people have all kinds of opinions about the outcome of the presidential election petition tribunal, where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was confirmed as the winner of the contentious February 25th presidential. But, the verdict is one that I'm sure will continue to for some days. The president of the APC scored a total of 8 million votes to defeat presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku and Labour Party, Peter Obi, who polled 6.9 million and 1.1 million votes, respectively. The 5-member panel had nullified the petition of Atiku and Obi in the 12-hour judgment on Wednesday. The tribunal was chaired by Jarinat Samani and asked by Justices Stephen Ada, Monsurat Bolaji Yusuf, Moses, and Abba Mohammed. But Atiku both rejected the verdict and challenged it at the Supreme Court. And we know that there were a lot of mixed reactions on social media about people who said eyes on the judiciary. I don't know how they saw eventually. It was live telecast. The judges were giving strong eyes why they were striking out some of the petitions put forward by the lawyers in court. And I don't want to give you all of detail, Kolawole. I know that with keen interest. So I want to be,
have the judgment. Have it.
I was sent to me, but I haven't taken my time. Feeling like start strategizing towards 2027.
Am I expecting the pendulum to swing? I said there was no pendulum at all. I told you this.
You said that,
and I gave the reason. I said go and look at the address of each party. I said look at what they submitted. The law is not. Let's.
Yeah, but it's what it is. Struck out a lot. And then, a lot of questions as to wherein the lawyers of this individual thorough in terms of the case they were presenting before the judges at the end of the day. Because it felt easy to say, we're striking out this one. And then say the judges themselves seem to be speaking on both sides of their mouths.
Where did they speak?
For example, I had a case before with the 12% of the FCT. That's going to be a classic example. And then you're getting the judge.
Oh, no, please, you had a case before. Be specific.
In the fact that you can not necessarily lose out if you don't get 25%, but at least you need 25%
now,
in
please,
the FCT.
Bring me the gent. We are so generic in Nigeria. There's one problem about the public area. We don't deal with issues today. We discuss them with issues, and once the next issue comes, we move to it.
What's emotional about it? If you already got a Supreme Court position, you need 25% here, and then you get the justice.
The position. I'm not saying that. I said bring the position. Because this was youth, proud before the election. I was part of the team who had Nikon here. I mean, one of the, in town who were there before that. And we discuss all of these matters. We practically settle them based on the tone of the law. That what if this scenario happen? What do we get? And what are we? Because we're preparing for the. Will it be once? If there was any stalemate, there'll be. Yeah. Okay, what if this happened? Look at all of these scenarios. And then judgment, based on pronouncement in place, based on what the law is, we're able to say, things cannot be beyond this. And I will give the example of just mentioned on the 25%. There's no pronouncement earlier that says that you need 25% in Abuja. That was what, if there was any pronouncement, Mr. Agbakoba, SAN, would not write to INEC election and say, what happens if the person with the highest vote does not get 25% in Abuja? Remember, he wrote. Why did he write? There was no position on that prior to time. 1, 2. After the election was held, another leading lawyer, Femi, was there, and he said there was a Supreme Court position on this that has set Abuja to be treated as X. Let me take you to section 2 of the Nigerian Constitution, 1999, Constitution, as I'll read for you. This you can Google this. That the provisions of the Constitution shall apply to the federal territory, Abuja, if it were one of the federation.
As
if it were one of the state of the federation. So the law said that any you say in this constitution regarding Abuja, you shall treat as if it were a state. So the 134 that said in Abuja, this one now says that interpreting the content of this constitution, you must treat Abuja as a state. So much that it went further, section 8, to say all the legislative powers, the executive powers, the judicial powers vested in the House of Assembly, that is in the state, in the governor of state, and in the court of the state shall respectively vest in the National Assembly. In the what should be for the House of Assembly shall be, those duties shall be carried in the National Assembly. Still treating it as what should be what should be on the governor shall be on the president of the nation, and what on the state court shall be shall be in the court which by virtue of these foregoing provisions are contested in federal capital's territory. I ask you, have we been practicing this before? Or have we had a situation where the National Assembly have been the one legislating the FCT? Huh? Have we? The answer is
apparently, yeah.
Okay. About what the governor, is it not the president who have been taking this before? The answer is yes. Do we not have a FCT court? So if you have this in place, why were you arguing this provision? Lawyers would tell you different things entirely. Immediately we would just take them hook, line, and sinker, run into street with it. You need to understand Abuja. When there is a position, when there is provision in the Constitution stating this clearly, but now we are not blind. And the next thing you say, the judges, when you have a position, and do you know when they gave their judgment, they were citing support. Their cases, pronouncement on these issues. Look at them. Read this judgment. Be lazy. Unfortunately, because of our selfish interest, our sentiment, we will pull down our own institutions. I'm not saying the judiciary that they have in force animals, they have those numerous times. But they have failed us again and again. They happen to be part of the corruption in the system. But I'm telling you that anything that is legal, you can't change it. I listened to this woman among our lords. She said,
Justice Montserrat?
She said, you won the majority of the vote that we should declare you. But you state the number of votes you. I'm from Ondo State. I was in Labour Party. I've prosecuted election cases. My friend CY, star witness, we did all the collations together. Election does not start after it starts during the election. That is when you start collating your evidence materials that you present in the court. And she said, you said the number. Okay, you said you want the majority of vote. You didn't tell the court the number of your vote. So what would they declare for you? They should just assume that you win without facts on the table. Is that what the law says? No. How did we win there? We won under the same property. How did we win? We won. These are the result of the polling unit. This person that you declare so number for. No, this is the actual result, the actual number that he has. For us, that you declare so. Oh, this is the actual result that we have. These are the evidences. Look at the papers. For units, we gather them and we table them. So, Justice, I think, Baruna, look at that and say, this is correct. I opt your argument. Based on this fact I've submitted, INEC, what you did is wrong. Based on these papers that you issued at the polling unit. So what you came to, what you declared at your national level is irrelevant. These are the own papers signed by your own agent across the polling unit. And that this is what we report. Came to the court and you didn't present, you brought from the unit as papers to support the vote that you have. You did not even tell them,
preparation part of it.
Don't even tell them the number of votes that have that should make them declare you. You just made the generic statement. And the woman said, the justice said, are you expecting us to go to the market and start looking for evidence for you? We hear that. We just build on the ignorance of people to keep, politicians are the same. I'm not saying one man won or one man lost. Based on this case in the court, we should call those lawyers and flog them. If you have not done a thorough job, what were you relying on? You went to, let me give an example, Kim. In this same studio, thank God that people, they know that when Osun case was decided in favor of Adele in the Supreme Court.
I rev issue.
What did I say? I said I rev issue that the court notified and said because they went to court and said what was on the IR gave them victory. That INEC didn't declare the vote. And the court said, no, it's not part of the provision of the law for you to declare. It is those collation forms, whatever. And I said, this is trouble for the presidential election petition.
I recall that conversation today, actually.
The same PDP judge then are now angry that the same thing is given by the Supreme Court. Why did they not return when it was in their favor? But may God not let them destroy in time. I mean, no time. Because this same thing was in their favor just a few months ago. The same Supreme Court gave the judgment in their favor. So do you now want them to now?
Being that INEC had the final call, if this result will be transmitted.
Yes, and that was not of the, what the Constitution says should be. Yeah.
But then, Kolawole, there's also another interesting aspect to look at this from. What was all the hula-baloo about the amendment of the Electoral Act? Looking at it, because if you amend your laws, is to say that we're upgrading it for things to become very relevant in the playoffs. And then if they're saying, it has the discretion to decide how it's going to do this. There was a whole process of us amending areas to give a bit more credibility to the election, because the reason why there's always apathy is because people have very little trust in the system. And they believe that anybody go by any means necessary win the election, then tell you go to. Then I wish you good luck in substantiating your claims at the end of the day.
I said so after the election. I said INEC messed up this election for us. So whoever has won, the legitimate would not be there. Not necessarily because he doesn't have the majority of vote cast, or maybe he has or he has not. But the process was the legitimate. I mean, the process determines the final outcome. If INEC had allowed that process smoothly and result go into the whoever won, maybe there even be any petition in the first instance, aside from those techniques of qualification. Unfortunately, they made it so by wasting the entire invest billions of naira, hundreds of billions. I remember when the EU came down with their own report and why EU? I said, you allowed them to put money in this process, so I would blame them from accessing the same process. Good. We got money from them. So we got money from donor agency to make this credible. And we ended up with what messed up the entire system. There were several processes. Only that singular that they messed up. If the election, the shadow of doubt you have up till date
on the part of INEC, that
yes, on the part of INEC, clearly. Whatever happens, blame INEC, not any other person. If any politician had access to do whatever, it was INEC messed up, then put in place to promote trust. And some will say, and unfortunately, this is a part of the law that is not supporting our own argument. The law is the law. We say, INEC came out to, this is the process. This is what we will use. So if it was changed, that should ensure that the election fight. But remember, in still the case of that this freedom of INEC to choose the system on collation. If they said this before, and the systems and the laws of choosing a process, if they again change, the law cannot be against. Even if they change a date, they say, no, we are based on what the law gave us, that the law gave us, we are not using that one again, we are choosing them. The law will still support them. The fact that the law gave a presumption of innocence, whatever you declare is the right result, you need to amend that part. It gives excessive powers. Whatever they declare, it is you. The onus of proof lies now you.
Which is a lot of burden.
It's a lot of...
because if we're saying, for example, where we say, were the lawyers thorough, why didn't they get some further? If you're saying, beyond making a statement that, there were disruptions and it was not the right result, you're expecting from every polling unit, from every you had it, you were supposed to be able to substantiate claim. That's a lot of work. Okay. It really have been easier if we had a more seamless process to work with.
I said in studio and elsewhere, when we don't need this 6 months, we don't need this 6 months. Kenya,
6 months for
just this petition that Kenya did this in a week. We said there are issues here. There are issues here. Don't compare us. This country is not just large. We have typical issues. As long as we manual process to collect, you cannot prove anything. The lawyer would have a lot of job to do. Remember, the judge said you didn't bring any witness pooling units to come what you're saying. And how on? We brought people to contest in court. Not all. Guys must come with what happened there. Video evidence of each unit. You can't say, violence happened generic without saying, violence happened here. I don't know why they didn't, major on a case like River State. why you didn't even bring the violence. Even some places in Lagos where you had violence, I said this happened here, and bring those specifically. You can't just make a generic statement and you expect the court to give you judgment. You know why I have is that it's was also even prove some few things. They say, it has never happened before. No presidential election, even governorship was not at a time. It was impossible until the same president seated came up with what on today as arithmetic stuff and as was it political? Yeah. It was the one that brought us that you can after the election. Okay, let me bring you to speed. Okay, sometimes in 2007, the PDP went to the entire Southwest election. The former vice said that the citizen president now called him after to say, "I have thought through the process. We can win these seats back is to prove that they were overvoting in places and that some persons printed more than one ballot box. Except we're able to do forensic analysis of the voters of the ballot papers, we won't be able to win that. That is what they have to do too." And he told him that this has never before in this country, and it is even not in good jurisprudence. And he said, "Let's invest in this. It will change the political system." The VP said this right here in Abuja in 2006-17.
Which of the VPs are we talking about?
Former, VP.
Okay.
Yeah, Pastor
Yemi.
Then he said, sent him to London to go meet some. And when they met under 40, laughed and said that has never been done. They called him and he told them that he's willing to invest in this. That they changed their legal jurisprudence, and so they invested in that. He was very forced to bring under 40. And they brought him and won by able to claim those states. Osun example, Ondo example, Ekiti example. And after that was done, that got into our legal jurisprudence. So we had something new. We now know that you can remove governors. So it's not, if we need to remove president to get the proper thing done, no problem. We must prosecute our case just like it was done for the governors that we now know that it is possible to remove a sitting governor. We must also do that presidential seat. It won't done because, you think it must be done. You must put the same system in that worked for the... So the same person that invented can be a victim if you prosecute the case properly. Yeah.
Let's go for a break. There are lots of questions. Joy is standing by ready for the news at the top. I will be back and there's more to look at. Stay with 95.1 now info.
Hello. My name is Kimberly. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Fact Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria Info.